He just wanted to give his daughter one night to feel like a princess. But when they were turned away from the fancy restaurant for looking too poor, no one said a word. Until a mysterious woman from the back table stood up. That woman would change their lives forever. This wasn't just a random act of kindness. It was the moment fate quietly opened a door. The streets were wet after the rain, but the sky was still gloomy. The clouds hung over the city like a heavy blanket. Gabriel Weber carefully parked his old car by the curb. When the engine stopped, the silence inside the car merged with the silence in his mind. He reached out and fixed the zipper on his little daughter's coat, sitting in the passenger seat. "You ready, Emma?" he asked softly. Emma smiled. Her hair was braided down her back, and her tiny hands clutched her small purse with trembling excitement. They had bought that lavender dress from a second-hand store. Gabriel had sewn the tears with his own hands last week. The little pearls he stitched onto the collar didn't hide the effort. Tonight was her birthday. She had just turned 9, and Gabriel was determined to make her feel like a princess for one night. He himself had put on his best shirt. It wasn't exactly white anymore, but it was ironed. He had cleaned his scuffed shoes early in the morning and carefully combed his hair. He reached out to help Emma out of the car. Then they walked together toward the restaurant entrance. Le Bijou. The sign above the door had gold lettering just like the life inside. Only very special people came here on very special days. Gabriel knew that, but still, the excitement in his daughter's eyes made it worth it. When they opened the door, they were greeted by warmth and the smell of fresh thyme. Crystal chandeliers, heavy tablecloths, and well-dressed people speaking in low voices. Emma looked around in awe. "It really is like a fairy tale," she whispered. But the magic broke with the expression on the host's face. A short man with a stern look glanced over at Gabriel, at his shirt, his unshaven chin, at Emma's simple dress. Then, forcing a smile, he said, "Can I help you?" Gabriel tried to keep his voice firm but polite. "We had a reservation under Weber for 7 o'clock. The host glanced at the book. After scanning a couple of lines with his finger, he shut it loudly. "I'm sorry, Mr. Weber, but I don't see a reservation under that name." Gabriel frowned. "I called 3 days ago. The woman's name was Clara. Clara no longer works with us." The host replied coldly. "Also, we have a pretty strict dress code." Those words just hung in the air. Emma was still holding her father's hand, but her gaze was confused. She didn't understand yet. But Gabriel did. They were being turned away. Quietly, politely, but firmly. Every gesture was saying, "This place isn't for you." Gabriel looked at his daughter. Her little heart was full of hope. She didn't deserve to be let down. "Sir," the host said again, this time his voice coated with almost mocking politeness, "your outfit and your daughter's dress, unfortunately, don't match the image of this restaurant. Perhaps somewhere more suitable." Gabriel clenched his jaw. His fists tightened. "It's just for her birthday," he murmured. "Just one night. I'm sorry." The look on the man's face clearly said, "No, you're not." Right at that moment, a voice came from behind. Elegant, strong, and unusually calm. "I think there's a mistake being made here." The whole room turned to look. So did Gabriel. A woman had stood up from a table in the back. Tall, dressed in an elegant emerald green gown. She wore no makeup, but she looked like a movie star. Her eyes full of confidence, her steps graceful. Everyone was watching her, but she was looking only at one person, Emma. "I'm Olivia," she said, approaching the host. "And I'm not going to let you ruin this little lady's fairy tale." The host's face went pale. "Ms. Davenport, I was just following procedure dash. Sometimes procedure keeps you from seeing," Olivia said. "But I saw a father and a princess." Emma's eyes had begun to sparkle. Gabriel had a lump in his throat now. He couldn't speak. "Would you join me?" Olivia asked, turning to Gabriel. "My table's big, and I'd really like to meet the birthday princess." Gabriel's mind went blank for a moment. Olivia Davenport. He knew that name. Not from town or the city, but from the kind of stories where people mention someone, yet no one quite knows what they actually do. Her name popped up on wine bottles, charity galas, or whispered gossip. And now here she was, crouched down to Emma's level, smiling and holding out her hand. "Happy birthday, beautiful girl," Olivia said in a gentle tone. "What's your name?" Emma glanced at her dad with excitement, then turned back to Olivia. "Emma," she said softly. "Emma Weber. What a lovely name. And this dress, truly fit for royalty." Olivia gave her a little wink. Emma's hands trembled as she nervously clutched her purse, but she blushed and smiled. The host was still standing there. His face looked like a portrait of crushed pride. But Olivia didn't look at him again. She only turned to Gabriel. "Will you join us?" Gabriel swallowed. "Miss Davenport, we really don't want to bother you." "We just dash, please," Olivia said. "The only thing that would have bothered me tonight is not reserving a bigger table." The host quietly stepped aside. It wasn't an order, but in that moment, Olivia's words felt like the rules. As the room stayed quiet, the three of them began to walk. Gabriel and Emma in front, Olivia in between. As the chandeliers passed above them, Emma tilted her head up to look at the sparkling crystals. She gripped her father's hand even tighter. The table in the corner was the most elegant spot in the room. Cream-colored linens, silver cutlery, and slow-burning candles. For Emma, it was a fairy tale. For Gabriel, it felt like stepping into a world that didn't belong to men like him. They sat down. Olivia pulled out a chair for Emma. "This seat," she said, "is reserved for birthday princesses only." Emma smiled as she sat. Gabriel still didn't feel at ease. His shoulders were stiff, and his eyes kept scanning the room. A waiter appeared immediately, this time with a different energy. Warm, kind, and attentive. As Olivia ordered, she turned to Emma. "A Shirley Temple for you, with extra cherries." "Sound good." Emma's eyes widened. "Really?" she asked. "Really?" Gabriel was stunned. He glanced at Olivia. She was casually looking over the menu, but at the same time, watching him. "You didn't have to do this," Gabriel finally said. "I know," Olivia replied. "But sometimes someone has to." After the waiter walked away, the table went quiet for a bit. While Emma curiously examined her drink, Olivia turned to Gabriel. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Sure," Gabriel replied hesitantly. "Back there, at the door, you were ready to throw a punch, weren't you?" Gabriel flinched. He smiled, but it was a bitter smile. "For a moment, I thought about it, but my daughter was right there. And without thinking, you protected her." Olivia nodded. "That's not something every man can do. It's just being a dad," Gabriel said. But even his voice didn't quite believe that. "No," Olivia said, her voice soft but serious. "That's about character." The mood at the table slowly started to ease. Emma had already started talking about her school project, the kid in her class obsessed with cat shirts, how she once accidentally put a toy in the teacher's bag. Olivia was listening, laughing, showing she truly cared. But Gabriel was still guarded. He kept trying to read between the laughs, to figure out why this graceful woman was doing all this. People like her helped, yes, but then they left. And often, they left behind more emptiness. At one point, Olivia whispered quietly, "You don't trust me." Gabriel flinched again. He tried to look away, but Olivia was staring right at him. "No," Gabriel said honestly. "But it's not about you. It's about the things life has taught me." Olivia lowered her head slightly. "I grew up with those things too." That sentence stopped Gabriel. His eyes met hers. There was something there, a past hidden behind the beauty of a woman trying really hard to keep it buried. Something broken. That night, the food came, the conversation flowed. And when Emma finally giggled and blew out the candles on her chocolate cake, Gabriel leaned back in his chair for the first time that evening. The weight in his chest had lifted, if only slightly. Maybe a stranger could create a miracle, just for one night. But the question still remained, would that miracle last? By the time the night ended, Olivia's driver was waiting out front. To Gabriel, the car was more than just a vehicle, it was a symbol of a world he'd never felt he belonged to. The shiny black body, the leather seats gleaming under the interior lights, and the almost silent hum of the engine. Emma held her breath. "Dad, is this a spaceship?" she whispered. Gabriel couldn't smile. There was still a thorn stuck inside him. As they got in the car, a heaviness settled on his shoulders. No matter how much he thanked her, it would feel like too little, but if he said too much, he'd feel in debt. They didn't talk during the ride. Just the whisper of the engine and Emma's excited little sighs. Olivia sat between them, but her presence didn't create distance, nor did it feel out of place. Her silence was comforting. After a while, Emma rested her head on her father's arm and fell asleep. "You raised her on your own?" Olivia asked. Her voice was soft, but the curiosity was genuine. Gabriel lowered his head. "She was 3. Her mom left. No real reason. Just said, 'This life isn't for me,' and walked out the door." "She never came back?" "Not once." His voice wasn't harsh, more like tired. Olivia stayed silent. She didn't judge. She didn't try to comfort. She just stayed quiet. Because sometimes, what a person needs most is someone who sits with their pain without trying to fix it. The car slowed at a corner. Gabriel hadn't given an address. He'd only said, "Drop us at the corner." Olivia figured out why. When the car stopped, Gabriel slowly opened the door and gently picked Emma up. "If you'd like, I can walk you to the door," Olivia said. Her voice carried an unexpected clarity. Gabriel paused for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, but please, just know, inside is very modest. Just be ready." Olivia smiled. "If I wasn't, I wouldn't have come." When they entered the building, silence greeted them. The hallway light was flickering, and the paint on the walls had been peeling for years. But Gabriel's steps were steady. As he unlocked the apartment door, Olivia looked around carefully. The small living room was old, but neat. The couch was worn, but folded blankets on top were clean. Child drawings on the wall, hearts in colored pencil, and the words, "My dad is the best in the world." "You didn't just make this a home," Olivia whispered. "You made it a safe place." Gabriel didn't answer. He carried Emma to her room, tucked her in, and kissed her on the cheek. When he returned, Olivia was looking at the drawings. One showed a man and a little girl standing in front of a repair shop. Underneath, in big letters, "Me and my dad." This is what's real to me," Gabriel said suddenly. "Not fancy restaurants or flashy lives. This, the quiet, the struggle. And I can't stop seeing you as someone from a different world." Olivia turned to him. "And you're set on keeping yourself out of mine." Gabriel smiled, but it was the kind of smile that mocks yourself. "Our paths crossed by accident, but they're different paths. Sometimes accidents are stronger than fate," Olivia said. In that moment, they moved into the kitchen. Gabriel made tea. 2 old mugs. No lemon, no sugar, just plain tea. It felt real. When Olivia held the mug, she looked Gabriel in the eyes for the first time and she saw something there. A man who was tired, but hadn't fallen. "Can I tell you something?" Olivia said, her voice now barely a whisper. "I grew up in a home just like this. Dark on the outside, but full of love inside. With my grandma. When the toilet broke, we fixed it ourselves. If there was a bowl of soup for dinner, it was a good night. Now I have this life, but I never forget where I came from. Because that home made me who I am, not this one." Gabriel slowly set his cup down. "Is your past still with you?" "In my heart. But not many people know. And you told me?" "Because there was no reason to hide it from you." Silence returned. But this time, it didn't carry fear. It carried trust. Gabriel slowly asked, his voice low, "Was this just one night, Olivia? Or was it a beginning?" Olivia smiled. Her eyes were tired, but steady. "Whatever you want it to be, that's what I want too." Morning came earlier than expected. Gabriel hadn't slept much that night. His thoughts kept circling in his head. Olivia's voice still echoed in his ears. There was no reason to hide it from you. There was a kind of honesty in those words, but also a big risk. Because when someone shares their past, they don't just want silence in return. They want continuation. But that morning, Gabriel didn't get any message from Olivia. No call, no good morning text. Maybe that night really was just one night. Beautiful, unforgettable, but temporary. At breakfast, Emma was excited as usual. "We have science class today. We're going to learn about craters on Mars." Gabriel smiled. "Before you go to Mars, maybe double-check your socks aren't on backwards." They laughed. When Emma grabbed her backpack and got on the school bus, Gabriel paused for a second. He looked down the street. The sky was clear, but the air felt oddly heavy, unsettled. It was just past 8 when he got to the garage. He had 3 repair appointments that day: 1 brake system, 1 battery issue, and the third got interrupted by a man who came in fast through the door. "You Gabriel Weber?" The man's voice was firm. He was wearing a black suit, but it looked worn out. His tie was loose, and what he wore on his belt asked a louder question. "A badge?" "Yes," Gabriel said cautiously, wiping his hands on a dirty rag. "Your daughter, Emma Weber, right?" There was a pause. Gabriel's heart jumped to his throat. "Yes. Why do you ask?" "There was an incident at the school." The rag dropped from Gabriel's hand. "What happened?" "A group of men approached the school this morning. They were caught on security cameras. They didn't look like just anyone. Their purpose is unclear. No children were harmed, but the school was evacuated as a precaution. And Emma, she's currently under protective custody with her teacher." Gabriel's knees nearly buckled. He took a deep breath. Is she okay? Physically, yes. But she's a little shaken. She gave us your name to call. Gabriel grabbed his jacket immediately. Take me to her. As the car sped down the road, Gabriel was drowning in a sea of thoughts. But one rose above the rest. This couldn't be a coincidence. Why would someone target Emma? And why now? He pulled out his phone. He wanted to text Olivia. Are you okay? Did something happen? But his fingers stopped. Maybe Olivia already knew the answer. When he found Emma at a small administrative building, her eyes were teary, but she was trying to be strong. When he hugged her, the first thing she said was, I was scared. I'm here to protect you, Gabriel said. His voice was steady, but inside, a storm was raging. A police officer pulled him aside. There's one more thing, he said quietly. One of the men seen on the security footage used to be Olivia Davenport's personal security. Time stopped. The air disappeared. Gabriel lifted his head. His voice shook, but his words were clear. Where is Olivia? When Gabriel left the police station, his eyes were still searching for Olivia. In the street, the park, the reflections of passing car windows. It felt like she should be everywhere, and yet, she was nowhere. The police had been clear. One of the men caught on camera used to work for Olivia. He was now said to be no longer affiliated. And the fact that this man showed up outside Emma's school that morning, it couldn't be just a coincidence. One thought echoed through Gabriel's mind. The shadow of another world is falling on the one that belongs to me. He didn't call Olivia then. He wanted to face her. But even seeing her name on his screen made his stomach feel hollow and cold. When he brought Emma home, she was still quiet. Gabriel stroked her hair and whispered, You're safe now. But even to his own ears, his voice didn't sound convincing. Because deep down, he knew the real danger had just begun. That same night, there was a knock at the door. Gabriel turned sharply toward it. When he opened it, Olivia was standing there. But not the Olivia he knew. The elegant, glamorous woman was gone. The woman in front of him was simply dressed like she had thrown on clothes in a rush. Her eyes held the weight of sleepless nights. Can I come in? Olivia asked. Gabriel didn't answer. He stepped back. She entered. As soon as she stepped inside, Emma ran over. Olivia, she shouted, throwing her arms around her. Olivia held her close, pressing Emma's head to her chest. Her eyes filled with tears. But Gabriel stood there, watching like he was stuck in a shadow. Olivia gently pulled away and knelt in front of Emma. I'll never let them hurt you. Never, she said. Then she stood up and turned to Gabriel. I know you have questions. I came to answer them. Gabriel's voice was thick. This morning, your ex-bodyguard was outside the school. The police told me. I know, Olivia said, lowering her head. His name is Lucas. He used to work with me years ago. But I found out too late what he really was. What do you mean? Lucas wasn't just a bodyguard. He was one of my father's private men, my father's former business partner. They assigned him to me when I was younger. But when I walked away from my father's world, Lucas turned on me. A few years ago, I filed a restraining order. The last time I saw him, he said, You're forgetting who you really are. Gabriel clenched his fist. And now this man is outside my daughter's school. I know. Olivia met his eyes. And I can't believe it. I never thought that one dinner just one night could trigger all this. Gabriel's voice was low and sharp. To you, it was just a night of helping. To me, to Emma, it's turned into something life-changing. Olivia stepped closer. It's life-changing for me too. Because I didn't just help, Gabriel. I opened my heart. To you, to her. Maybe for the first time. And now everything is falling apart. Gabriel looked away. In my world, that's how it goes. If something looks beautiful, it's either temporary, or it comes with a price. The silence between them was heavy. Olivia took another step. Gabriel, I came back to stay, no matter what. But I want you to know, if this man hasn't let go of me, that's not my fault. But stopping him, that is my responsibility. Gabriel's voice was hoarse. If anything happens to us, Olivia, I won't blame you. But I'll never trust anyone again. In that moment, the air between them thickened. Olivia nodded. I'm leaving early tomorrow. I need to meet someone to stop him. One last move. But I have to go alone. If it works, everything changes. Gabriel didn't say anything, but his eyes gave an answer. Olivia gently stroked Emma's hair. Then she quietly left. When the door closed, Gabriel just stood there. He looked at his daughter, then at his hands, then back at the door. This woman had brought hope into his life. But now, She might also tear it apart with the shadows that followed her. And what would morning bring? No one knew. Morning came late and quieter than usual. Gabriel had decided not to take Emma to school. One sentence kept echoing in his head. Will she come back? Olivia had left very early that morning. Her departure was silent, but there was a light in her eyes, one that looked ready to face the darkness. Gabriel hadn't said goodbye. No words had been exchanged. But the loudest sentence in their silence was, "You'll either understand me or lose me forever." As the day went on, the air got heavier. In the garage, Gabriel was quieter than ever. Even the sound of engines couldn't drown out the unrest inside him. Benny glanced at him and said only one thing. "If something's wrong, say it." 2 p.m. The phone rang. Unknown number. Gabriel answered without hesitation. The voice was shaky but in control. "They're following me. The plan fell apart. But I met with him. He really does want to destroy me. This isn't just obsession, Gabriel. This is a war. A war by a man who wants to kill my past. Olivia, where are you?" If my voice cuts out, I sent my location with this message. "Gabriel, don't come unless you can stop him. But I may not make it back. Protect Emma." Gabriel's hand trembled. His eyes turned red. Something cracked inside him, something he had suppressed for years. Fear gave way to love. Emma was in the garage, holding her toy screwdriver with her little hands. "Dad, did something bad happen?" Gabriel knelt down and hugged her. "I have to leave for a little while. But don't forget that I love you. No matter what." Did something happen to Olivia? That tiny voice cut right into his heart. Gabriel looked into her eyes. "I have to go find her." Emma stepped back, but there was something in her eyes. Trust. Belief. "Then go," she said. "Because I love both of you." At the same time, outside the city in an abandoned warehouse, Olivia was leaning against a wall inside the rundown building, trying to control her breathing. Lucas was still outside. He had followed her. The meeting she had planned had turned into a trap. She had nothing. No security. No way out. But then, a sound. An engine. Familiar vibrations. When the door burst open, the man who stepped in was Gabriel. No jacket. No sweat on his face, but his eyes were burning. "Let her go," he shouted. The power in his voice gave Olivia hope. Lucas turned, wearing a smug smile. "Oh, the knight in shining overalls has arrived. I guess you're playing the prince in this fairy tale." "No," Gabriel said slowly, stepping forward. "I represent the truth, and you're a rotten lie from the past." The fight broke out. Punches, shouting, the clang of metal against concrete. But Gabriel didn't back down. Because it wasn't just a fight, it was trust in a child, hope in a woman, and a life a man was willing to protect to the end. Finally, Lucas was on the ground. Police sirens were getting louder. Olivia had collapsed to the floor, but her eyes searched for Gabriel. When his hand reached down to lift her up, Olivia whispered only one thing. "You saved my future." Days later, Emma came home from school. A ribbon in her hair, peace in her eyes. When she stepped inside, there was a smell at the door, coffee and cinnamon cake baking in the oven. Inside, Olivia was in the kitchen. Gabriel stood at the counter in his blue coveralls, leaning on his elbows, smiling as he watched her. When Emma walked in, Olivia bent down. "I wanted to pick you up today, but traffic after school was a nightmare." Emma laughed. "If you get stuck in traffic, that means you really are one of us." Laughter, then silence. But this time, a silence filled with peace. Gabriel walked over to Olivia. He wrapped his arm around her waist. "You know," he whispered, "I once set out just to give her one night to feel like a princess. But now I see. That night was actually the beginning of our story." Olivia turned and looked into his eyes. "We're not being turned away at the door anymore." And then, the three of them, in a kitchen, quietly, together, faced the most precious thing in life. Reality, loyalty, and a brand new beginning. This wasn't just a dinner. It was a real beginning, one that changed a man's trust, a child's smile, and a woman's past. Because sometimes, fate is written by those who get turned away at the door. If this story made you feel something too, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Because sometimes, the person who changes your life isn't someone you were waiting for, but it's someone you've never met before.